Hi, I'm Ashley Cotter-Cairns from sellmycomicbooks.com, and this is the latest episode of This or That. This is a series where we're trying to prevent collectors and investors from making big, expensive mistakes, and we're going to present alternative ideas for where to put your money into comic books. So without further ado, this or that. Today's episode of This or That is going to talk about buying key issue comics. This is a topic that's really dear to my heart because when I buy comic books, they're always key issues, and I see people making the same mistakes time and time again. Now, of course, I'm seeing it from the other end of the scale because people are selling me their comic books, and I see the mistakes they're making at the expensive end of the wedge, the thin end of the wedge. When you come to sell your key issues, that's when you realize you've made a mistake, and usually it's months or years too late to correct it. So what I'm going to try and do in this episode is teach you not to make those mistakes at the beginning, actually to be smart and use your intelligence when you're investing in key issue comics. So I'm going to go, there's an article online which I published yesterday which I'm going to use as a reference for this. Now, let's talk a little bit about why we buy key issues and why it's so exciting and why that means you can make so many mistakes. Anytime that you're making a big decision with your hard-earned money, you get adrenaline, like especially with eBay and how there's a sort of sense of urgency with an auction or an item you've been looking for a while suddenly comes up. Maybe you have an eBay alert that just like sends you an email to say, hey, your New Mutants 98 has just been listed, and you're like, wow, God, I've got to check this out. You see it. Your heart starts to race. It's exactly what you've been looking for, especially something a little bit more scarce, like a high-grade Batman 181 or something. And you're just like, wow, I've got to have this. I've got to have this. Now, just stop for a second and think back to times when you've made big decisions, like buying a car, buying a house. Most of the time, we don't rush those decisions because we realize the gravity of those decisions. Like if you sign for a new mortgage, that's a long-term, multi-year commitment. I want you to think the same way about buying key issue comic books, because unless you're looking to flip it quickly for a profit, which is not so easy to do, you are going to be owning this comic book for a long time. It's even more important if you're an investor looking to make a slow return on your investment. And that's the time when you make the decision to buy is when you're going to make your profit. Because if you buy the right books at the right time for the right price, the profit comes when you sell, but you're going to get much more return for your dollar than you do if you rush your decision and buy the wrong book at the wrong price. So let's just look at some examples I dug up. I'm going to start with New Mutants 98, which everybody knows is the first appearance of Deadpool. The reason I started with this book is because you see so many mistakes on this book. This is a book that's very common. There are over 2,400 graded at 9.8 alone, so you're spoiled for choice, or you should be spoiled for choice when it comes to buying a copy of New Mutants 98. But time and time again, we see this problem where people just don't know the market well enough, and they rush and they buy the wrong book. It shocks me. It really shocks me. When I looked at the census to see what the sales were on this book, there are some real idiots out there bidding on stuff they should never have any business buying. The example I dug up was a 7.0 of New Mutants 98. Now, most seasoned comic book collectors and investors realize that modern books are supposed to be near mint. They are things published since 1990. There was a strong established collectors market. These books were published in tens of thousands, or in some cases millions. So, by the way, if you're sitting on a big pile of Spawn #1s waiting to get rich, you're going to be waiting a very long time, because there were something like 5 million copies of that book sold. So, at this era, where there were huge print runs and collectors were routinely programmed to buy their book, don't even read it, put it straight into a bag and board and stick it away in a box and forget about it, this means that, on average, the grade of modern comics is high. Which is great if you happen to be owning a big stack of them, but it's not so great if you happen to be buying lower grade examples. So what we see in modern books is that people who don't know what they're doing are buying the wrong grades. Let's say this New Mutants 98 copy, CGC 7.0. Somebody paid $190 for this. And when I looked a little further, I found that somebody else with a bit more smarts had paid only $30 more for a 9.0. The difference between a 7.0 and a 9.0 is as marked as the difference between a 2.0 and a 4.0, or a 3.0 and a 5.0. That's a huge difference. Just because it's in a CGC holder doesn't mean it's a high grade book. It just looks nice because it's shiny and it's kind of encapsulated. It's beautiful. It's kind of somehow mysterious. You need to educate yourself. What are you buying? What do you want? Do you want a book that has potential resale value in the future? Great, then go for something that's higher grade, especially if it's only a $30 difference. Why would you keep the $30 in your pocket? You're only going to waste it anyway, let's face it, and buy the dud, the 7.0. The 7.0, if we ever get a 7.0 of New Mutants 98, it's because Sean missed something serious when he was sending it into CGC. There is no reason for a CGC book to be a 7.0 after 1990 unless it's something extremely rare. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There's Bone Number 1, first print. I probably would certify that in 7.0, but that's about the only one I can think of. Even Walking Dead 1 is not really worth certifying in 7.0. If the reason you're paying decent money for a 7.0 is simply because you want the book to read, well then why would you buy it in a case in the first place? Buy something off eBay that isn't in a case. Don't be the guy that overpays for a low-grade modern book. Now, when I did some further digging, I actually found that somebody else paid $182 for a CGC 6.0. A CGC 6.0 of a 1990s book is just ludicrous. That has no business being certified in the first place, and even when it has, it should sell for nothing on eBay. You're really wasting your money buying this book. $182 is, barely less than the 7 and hardly any less than the 9. And then we had a guy in 2015, the best one I found was somebody paid $165 for a CGC 4.0. Now, 2 years ago, admittedly, there was a lot of hype about the upcoming Deadpool movie, which came out last year in 2016, but still, there are some crazy people out there. I don't want you to be one of those people that's making the mistake. So educate yourself on what the CGC graded books should sell for, and my advice, if you want a New Mutants 98, there are so many out there. There were over 280 listed on eBay when I did my research. That's just one day. 280 copies. So you've got plenty of choice. There's no excuse to mess this up. What I would recommend is avoid buy it now auctions, because those tend to be like, oh, I've got to have it, I've got to have it. You just press a button and you buy it. It's got instant gratification. I would look for the grade you want, research the prices they sell for on average, not just one-off sales, but on average, and just set your highest bid at that price and forget about it. And when you get the email that says, hey, you won, well, congratulations, you got it at the right price. When you get the email that says you've been outbid, move on, find the next one, set your maximum price until you get it. You're going to win one. I guarantee it, you will win one. Do not let your standards slip. Do not go down a grade or a half grade just because you see the book you want and you can't wait. If you're an investor especially, there is no excuse for being in a hurry. You need to take your time, and remember, these dollars don't come back to you easily.